Hey guys, I'm Combat Craig, and today I have a special guest with me to help explain some differences between Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, and VA disability benefits. With VA disability, they cannot use your age against you. So I'm 91 years old. I file a VA disability claim for the first time. I win it. I can get 100% permanent and total. I could go the TDIU route. They can't use my age against me. What happens in Social Security? Does it work the same way, or do you have to do something different after you're a different age, like 62 or 65? Like, do they convert it into normal Social Security, or how's that work?
That's a really good question. So can the Social Security Administration create laws that would make it more difficult for somebody who is potentially younger or older to get disability benefits? The answer is yes. And the main focal point is that if you are over 50 years old at 5-year intervals, 50 to 54 on the day before 55, 55 to 59 on the day before 60, 60 plus, at each one of those groupings as you get older, it is easier to be found disabled, right? So you don't have that, that option of having zero age preference or prejudice, like on the VA side. But on the SSA side, yes, there is an age preference, there is an age prejudice, and there's a lot of reasons why. One of the major reasons is that if a Social Security applicant applies as a child or a young person in their 20s, 30s, whatever, and they're found disabled, the potential of that individual to stay on the program for a very, very long time always exists. And the longer they're on that program, the more money has to be paid to them from the trust funds or the general tax funds if it's SSI based. So, you're adding hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars onto essentially having to pay out for that particular individual if they're found disabled when they are younger. So yes, absolutely, there's an age preference. We have these things called grid rules. Grid rules basically make it easier for people who are older and each category of older to be found disabled more easily.
If you've reviewed all the medical evidence and you know you're missing something to establish service connection, like a diagnosis or a nexus, you might want to check out my med team. There's a link in the description. They can help you with your missing medical evidence.
Now, that is why a lot of law firms will not take people who are basically under 50 years old or child claims. We still take some claims that are under 50 years old. We still take some child-based claims. However, because we only get paid if we win, the likelihood that we're going to take those like tough gray area claims when they're under 50 years old or a child claim, non-existent. We're not going to take that risk because we won't get paid if we put all this work into that claim and the judge won't approve it. So that's why, and most disability law firms won't even take claims when they're under 50 years old at this point. Like, that's the cutoff. They're under 50, even if they're child claim, cutoff. They won't take them. So you have to understand, the difference of mental, figuring this out. VA side, those individuals, they did their serving, right? They have their level of, what they came out with. Was it honorable? Was it less? All that stuff. But with this side, right, and this is how the SSA is countering it. If somebody's found disabled and they're younger, right, then what happens is they're worried about having to pay too much to that particular person. Because remember, if they go into SSDI benefits, the people who pay in less usually get more benefit than those who pay in zillions of dollars, lots of money, who get kind of the least amount of benefit from these programs because the expectation is that they will continue to be wealthy people even after, right? Now, here's the thing. The way the SSA is countering this is that they are increasing the amount of CDRs that they're doing, continuing disability reviews, and they're also increasing the amount of CDI investigations. CDI units are basically where there's an investigator that reviews the file to see if there's any potential for fraud. Right? They'll follow people around, get them on camera, all that stuff. So what you're seeing is that people who would normally go on to disability benefits, SSDI benefits, SSI benefits for their entire life, until, of course, SSDI benefits transfer to retirement benefits or SSI benefits transfer to retirement benefits, at this one, usually around 66, 67. For SSI benefits, at 62, if they're available, if you have enough quarters of coverage for the SSDI side. So the bottom line is, when it comes down to, are people going to have in the next 10 years the expectation that they'll be on disability benefits for the rest of their life? No. Most will know that the SSA will come knocking and continue to review them, and they will have to continue to show that they're severely impaired. But remember, you've one rule that is protecting you. which is that you were found disabled back in the day under those rules. Every time they change the rules to be more anti-claimant, and you get a new adjudication, like, you lose your benefits and you get re-adjudicated and then found disabled, not on the original claim, but like a totally new claim, then the new rules apply to you. But if basically they want to pull away your benefits, but you can prove that you're still disabled during that time, it's all by the old standard of when you were found disabled back in the day, the old rules of when you were found disabled. That is your strongest, best rule that supports you, because every year it becomes more and more difficult to be found disabled for SSDI benefits and SSI benefits. So as a result of that, you have to keep in mind is that every year that you wait to file, it becomes harder for you to keep those benefits because you don't have the easier rules backing you up, in which case they would use what's called the 8-step sequential process, and we can always do a video on that. So I just wanted to go through that real quick. Yes, they have age preference. And yes, most disability attorneys are not taking people under 50 years old. And yes, more people are getting reviewed and kicked off of benefits than ever before. And yes, basically, the whole face of civilian disability benefits are shifting and changing right now. So we can always do another video on the big picture changes, but that's an important one. Knowing that people having the expectation that they're going to stay on disability benefits for pretty much their entire lifespan.
VA claims are all about strategy. I preach and I teach strategy in my boot camp. Check it out at combatcraig.com.
That's going to change because a lot of people are going to be getting kicked off because, bottom line, they may be improved a little, medical treatment improved, they have a cure, maybe there's a pill, we're on the cusp of having these micro little bots go into our body and repair things, and then we just pass them and things like that. So the point is, we will, as a society, as medical treatment continues to go forward and advance, get to a point where there are fewer and fewer impairments that are considered severe enough to put you onto a disability program. So in that sense, whether they're regrowing something for you or they're fixing some sort of blood clot issue, whatever. So in that sense, disability benefits are on a timeline. They won't exist forever. You're still going to get decades out of them. But as medical treatment continues, the bottom line is some impairments will disappear. And then once we get to the point where we have little microbots that can go inside your body and repair things, even DNA strands, then we're going to get to the point where essentially, you're going to see massive categories of impairments completely wiped off of the potential of being found disabled for them.
That strategy, that's my boot camp. That's what I talk about. I preach it and I teach it. You need a doctor that can help you with a Nexus letter. Check out my med team. Here's an email address. Hit them up. Tell them you need a Nexus.